What role exactly did you play in Stripes?
Oh, well, you're going beyond the beyond. There's really no role. I remember reading for one of the main roles for Ivan Reitman, and I had a good reading, and he liked me, but not enough to put me in the main group. So I got offered a part of a soldier. It was a day player part that makes a wager with Bill Murray during the mud wrestling scene. So I come to shoot it, and it took 3 days, so I got 3 days out of it, and they never covered it. So I was really kind of a glorified extra there. But I do remember getting to know Bill Murray a little bit. He told me about how he took off his makeup every day. He had this whole ritual, and he said, you got to use this stuff and this stuff. And he was really, really approachable and just really nice to me as a guy starting out. But I have no part in it. But the producers were nice enough to put my name in the credits. So I've actually I did for a while get some nice residuals off of that. Now I think they're down to like 2 cents a check, but better than a kick in the pants. I invited Jim to this early screening of The Lords of Discipline at Paramount, and I introduced him. Michael Biehn was there and Rick Rossovich. I introduced him to both of them, and they both ended up doing The Terminator. I met Jim 2 years before Lords of Discipline. I was working on his night crew. He hired me to be a set builder and set decorator on a picture called, well, it came out under the title Galaxy of Terror. It was called The Quest when we made it. This was for Roger Corman. It was down at the old lumber yard in Venice that he had bought to turn into a production facility. Anyway, Jim, when I got to know him back in those days, I had made a little short called Fish Heads that I sold to Saturday Night Live, based on a Barnes and Barnes song of the same title. And Jim saw that and started to open up to me. And I remember one night he telling me he was writing a script, and I asked him what it was about. And he said, well, it's about a cyborg from the future that comes back to the present to assassinate a woman who's going to give birth to a son who in the future is going to lead a revolution against the machines. And I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool, Jim. What are you going to call it? The Terminator. So this was 4 years later. I got a call from Jim. I guess an actor had fallen out or whatever, but they needed to shoot this scene up at Griffith Observatory with Arnold Schwarzenegger when he first lands as the Terminator, and he confronts these 3 punks for their clothes. And that was a significant credit for me. It was the best script I'd ever read. And this was my friend, Jim Cameron, and I knew he was moving up and was really a talented guy just from working with him in the art department and just hearing his ideas about things. But I thought, wow, whoever gets this part, it's going to be significant. Then I heard that Arnold had been cast, and I thought that was perfect casting. I remember going in to read for it, and at that point, I'd been auditioning for a couple of years, and I had learned that, you're not doing Shakespeare, so you can improvise lines, not necessarily improvise, but have some other ideas. My dad always came home, he was always traveling, but he always came home, but he'd always have some crazy expression for something. And so lines like, how about a nice greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray? This was the kind of stuff that I grew up with my dad telling me and stuff like that. I just started throwing this into the audition. And John, being a Midwesterner as he is, just completely identified with this and just egged me on. I remember having to come in like 2 or 3 times, and I knew I was close, but that was at a time where I'd get very close for something, but then the actor who already had some movie credits would end up getting cast. And I remember I was out at Zuma Beach. It was towards the end of the summer. I thought I would use the payphone to call in to my agent, Hildy Gottlieb, and I called her, and she said, I've just been trying to reach you. John wants to cast you in Weird Science. And I tell you what, one of the great moments.
Hi, Nanny. Hi, Grampy.
I'm not a moron, you know. It was a plum roll. I came up with the idea, the haircut and the look and everything. It wasn't written that he was from, at a military prep school, but once I was aboard, he had an old bungalow. It was like, I think it might have been Hitchcock's bungalow. They've torn them all down now. They used to be at Universal, but they keep tearing down the old studio to make up the ride bigger or the tour bigger. And he started inviting me down, and Michael Hall was hanging out there, and I never felt so confident in front of a camera. He just just lifted me up, and I had to do a lot of my stuff to the mat box or to him. Scenes like when I'm doing the whole "you two donkey dicks couldn't get laid in the morgue," and you see the gloves start playing with my lips. That's John Hughes doing that off camera. It's his hand on the gloves grabbing my lips. When I was a kid, my mom was at a ticket counter at LAX, and I'm sitting there. My brother and I have matching red blazers and crew cuts and navy shorts, and we're sitting there and the kind of with the emblem on the breast pocket, and Peter Lorre walks up to us. And I remember this voice coming. He said, "You boys, hi, nice boys. I see you boys are going fox hunting. Yes, yes." And my mother came over and said, "Oh, Mr. Lorre, yes." So he goes, "You are nice boys." And I just remembered that voice, and so I thought that would be a good voice for Chet as the Blob. Sigourney there would always be some flowers in the dressing room the day of your death scene. Of course, like the first Alien, the second Alien does follow the whole 10 Little Indians thing as they get narrowed down. So yeah, Sigourney would give flowers to the departing cast member.
Check it out. I am the ultimate badass. Yeah.
I almost signed to do a Police Academy too. Jim was already in England in heavy prep for the film. Now I had been visiting, and the night before I didn't have much money then, and so I couldn't really hire a car to take me out to Pinewood Studios, which is a good 45 minutes out of London. So I got on the train, went into central London, took the train out of London, got to Uxbridge, wherever the hell it was. Then I got on a bus that took me within about a mile of the studio. But then now I'm walking. It's it's summer day in England, and I'm walking. It takes me like about 40 minutes to walk, and now I walk through the gates of Pinewood Studios. I mean, how many actors come out there to audition will actually walk through the gates? So there I was. So Jim hands me like this cardboard tube, poster tube, and says, "Okay, that's your plasma pulse rifle." And I'm just going to be videoing this. And so I'm jumping up on the couch. We're doing all this stuff. He says, "Loosen it up. Let's try this." He goes, "Come on, really give it to me." And I'm doing all this stuff. And I left the audition thinking, good Lord, I was so over the top, just screaming every line and. So I leave, and God, for the rest of my vacation there, I'm kind of sweating it out. I don't hear anything. I come back to California. I don't hear anything for a month. And now Weird Science has come out, and I'm getting these notices, and I get a call from Hildy Gottlieb, my agent at ICM, and she says, they're interested in you for Police Academy 2. And the money is more money than I've ever seen in my life. And I'm thinking, well, gosh, yeah, okay. Because I'd kind of given up on getting cast by Jim and Aliens. So all of a sudden, Hildy calls me about a week later, and she says, "What do you call a ball that comes out of left field?" "Yeah, Jim Cameron's going to call you in 5 minutes from England." The phone rings. I pick it up. It's Jim. He says, "Bill, I want to cast you in the part of Hudson." And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
Come on, you bastard! Come on, you too! Oh, you want some of that?
You've died many times on screen. Do you have a favorite?
Probably Aliens. Yeah, for sure. That was the most significant death scene. Because I was the guy who was the braggadocious Marine who ended up being super cowardly, and then kind of finds his balls at the end and gets to go down Audie Murphy style. So yeah, Aliens.
Houston, we have a problem. We have a main bus B undervolt. We've got a lot of thruster activity here, Houston. It just went offline. Oh, there's another master alarm, Houston.
I'm checking the quad.
Christ, there was no refresh valve.
Well, I didn't have a problem. Houston might have had a problem, but I had no problem with Apollo 13. Brian Swarstrom, who I've been with, he's been my agent and good friend for over 20 years. I remember him coming to the set of a movie I was just doing some pickup shots on and saying, "I've got here's your next movie," and he gave me an old Life magazine, and it was of the Apollo astronauts. And he said, "Ron Howard's doing the Apollo 13 story." I was like, oh my gosh, because I remember Apollo 13. I was probably about 15 when that happened. I was about to have a birthday, and I'd been kicking around Hollywood a long time, and Boy, I wanted to do Apollo 13, and I could taste it. I knew I was right for it. And I had read a couple of times, and I was reading for the part of Jack Swigert. And the part went to Kevin Bacon. And I was thinking, gosh, am I going to be this age, and then this age, and then I'm going to keep getting close to these damn things? And then I get a call from Brian Swarstrom saying, Ron Howard wants to call you. And he didn't know what it was for. And I'm thinking, you know, and this had happened to me before where I'd get close. And then the director would be nice enough, or the producer would be nice enough to call and say, hey, it didn't work out, but we just want you to know for yourself, your own self, you know, your own self-esteem or whatever, you were really good, you know, but you didn't get the part. And so I'm waiting for this call, and I remember thinking, I'm going to take the high road here. When Ron calls, I'm going to be like the jilted guy that's cool with it. It's okay, you know. So Ron calls. It's Ron Howard. They put the call through. Ron Howard, you know, boom, I get on. I go, Ron, I think Kevin's a great choice for Jack. You know, he's perfect for the part. And he said, no, that's not why I'm calling. That's not why I'm calling. I go, well, what are you calling then? He says, what would you think about playing Fred Hayes? Suddenly I was going down to Huntsville, Alabama with Tom Hanks, Kevin Bacon, and Gary Sinise and Ron down to the jet propulsion lab down there, and that was a remarkable journey. We got to go to the White House to screen it for for Bill Clinton and Hillary when that administration was riding high. We all went to the bathroom before, and I remember standing at the urinal between Tom and President Clinton. I couldn't urinate. I'm just kind of pretending like, yeah, okay. But they had a few astronauts there that night, and one of them was John Glenn. And John Glenn was sitting. These rows were only about 8 long. And I'm sitting next to Tom, and Rita, his wife's next to him, and Louise is here, my wife, and then another couple, and then there's John Glenn at the end of our row. And during the launch sequence, Tom kind of taps me, kind of bumps me, and I look over him, and he points down there, and I look, and there's John Glenn just gripping the handrest of his chair as he's watching the launch sequence. And I thought, oh my gosh, he's reliving this moment that he actually experienced. I had just come out of Apollo 13. My hair was significantly short. It came down to Jan de Bont saying, how fast does your hair grow? Because he had this thing about he wanted the hair to be blowing. The wind is blowing, it's crazy. And the cows, watch the cows. Jamie, you're not watching. Helen, watch, follow my fingers. Here comes the cow. Okay. Now, where did it go? Where did the cow go? Here comes the cow. I can't do a Dutch accent, but, you know, I just remember a lot of that stuff. But we had a lot of fun on that movie, and I really liked Jan de Bont because he was a full-on industrial strength filmmaker.
Breathe, Justin, we have to breathe! Breathe! Right!
We had a lot of practical effects on Twister. They'd put out these fluorescent golf balls, too, for later on to lay the Twister in. But one of the gags they had, which was a commercial jet engine that had been bolted down to an 18-wheel flatbed semi. And behind that was another 18-wheeler that had this giant hopper, this conveyor belt that would drop this stuff in front of the jet engine, and it would shoot all this debris at us. Now, yeah, it was light stuff. It was paper and cardboard and straw and stuff like that. But this isn't a precise science. And you get a piece of straw hitting you in the face coming off the wash of a jet engine, and it's just not exactly comfortable. But another thing, Helen got her bell rung one day. We're driving one of the Dodges. I think we went through 5 of those red Dodges. I mean, we were dropping telephone poles on them and just flipping them and everything else, driving them through exploding tankers. But I remember this when we were driving this one through the cornfield. And we're gonna drive it at the Twister, and we're gonna dive out. And all we have to do is The stunt people are going to do that, but we've just got to start for the editor, just to start the thing, look like we're starting to get out. Well, the resistance on those doors with those corn stalks was a lot more than I think. I could feel that it was really hard. I had to really push that thing open. I start to get out. Well, she starts to push it open, and she starts to try to look like she's just starting to get out. And that door comes in, and so her head's between the door and the cab, and she just gets just one of those. That was a wrap for the day. But God bless her. At least she was game to do it, and we did a lot of running and screaming, and it was kind of like your line, my line, run like hell, almost get killed. Your line, my line, run like hell, almost get killed. But I had the time of my life making Twister. I did know Titanic was going to be a phenomenon. I mean, Jim is an awesome filmmaker, and his sense of storytelling and the scale and the way he approaches the work, I knew that here was one of the greatest stories of modern times, the sinking of the Titanic. And here's one of the greatest filmmakers of modern times. And you put that combination together, and you're going to have something special. I think I did Jay Leno about a week before it opened. I don't know what I was promoting. I might have been promoting Titanic. I'm not sure what I was promoting, but by then the naysayers were kind of, leading the charge, and everyone was talking about how much had been spent on the movie. I think it was, I don't know, 300, who knows how much they spent on it, but I knew the behind-the-scenes story. I know that Jim Cameron had, given his salary back at one point. He said, I don't care if I work for 5 years for nothing. But but what's amazing about him, he's uncompromising in his artistic vision in a town that's just fraught with compromise. And I said to Jay, I said, everybody's saying all this stuff about Titanic. I said, let the naysayers have their day, but when the movie comes out, it'll be Jim who has the last word on this one. Are you ready to go back to Titanic? Now, what was amazing about that experience for me was not so much the filming of the movie, because I only worked about 3 weeks on it. But in 2001, I got a call in late spring that Jim Cameron was mounting another expedition to Titanic and wanted me to go with him. So I met him for lunch, and he said, I've got these 2 robotics we're going to take down there. We're going to park on the ship. I got this lighting package. We're going to drop down over the ship. We're going to light it like it's never been seen. And we're going to send these bots and we're going to image the ship like it's never been since it sailed. And I thought, well, great, Jim. I'll love to go. Maybe I can be there to give you a warm drink and throw a blanket over you when you come back from the deep, 2.5 miles down into the North Atlantic to see the ultimate ghost ship down there. And so he said, no, I want you to go down. I thought, well, maybe I'll go on one dive. I ended up diving to the wreck 4 times with Jim, 3 to the bow and once to the stern, and that was the most remarkable thing that I've ever done in my life.